France is mad for offshore sailing. In this country, the top sailors are national sporting heroes. The start of their major offshore events are big occasions where the region will often be fully invested in hosting, sponsoring and promoting the events. And the biggest of them all is this one, the Vendee Globe, which starts and finishes here in Les Sables d'Olonne. This is the toughest offshore race in the world. It's said that 2/3 of the French public follow this race. That's over 22 million people. Maybe it's not surprising. It's the easiest race in the world to understand. One start, one finish, one lap of the world alone. 24,000 miles, roughly. But it's also a story of human endurance. Over the last 9 events, 200 people have started the race, 114 have finished. It's run every 4 years, and this is its 10th anniversary, and it's massive. The race started in 1989 with Titouan Lamazou winning the first race, getting around the world in just over 109 days. Next up was Alain Gauthier in Bagot Supérieur, then Christophe Augun in Geodis, Michel Desjoyaux, PRB in 2000. All the while the record was coming down and down and down. Vincent Rio, 2004. Michel Desjoyaux, again the only person to have won it twice, in Foncia. Then Francois Gabard in Massif. Armel Leclerc in Banque Populaire. He set the record just over 74 days. And last time around, Yannick Bestevan in Maitre Coq 4. But the thing about the Vendee Globe is it's not just about who won and the records, it's the images and the things that have happened in that 40 years. It's been quite remarkable. That was the first start, but straight away, Philippe Poupon capsizing. What about Bertrand de Broc? The story about him having to stitch up his tongue. Then we've got Pete Goss. Pete Goss sailed 500 miles upwind to go and do a rescue with Raphael Donnelly. Then we have Yves Parlier rebuilding his mast on his own, making his own autoclave on board the boat to do it. Tony Bullimore, I mean, there's a story that you didn't have to be a sailor to know the Tony Bullimore story. Upside down in the Southern Ocean, no keel, got rescued. Ellen MacArthur coming second, a phenomenal performance. In 2004/5, nothing happened. Well, there wasn't any drama at least, but it was a fantastic race. Here's an image we see every time, fireworks for the end as Vincent Rio finishes his race. But what about this one? Jean Le Cam, upside down, no bulb on his keel. He was rescued though, quite remarkable. Michel Desjoyaux, as we said before, winning for the second time, the only person to have done that. And this image here of Francois Gabard, the youngest winner of the Vendee Globe. The pictures and the images and the stories go on and on and on. This is an extraordinary race, full of amazing imagery, amazing stories. No wonder so many people come to see it every 4 years. The organisers say that 2.5 million people will visit this race village. And given the crowds that have been flocking here for days and queuing for hours to get onto the pontoons, it's easy to see how they get to these kind of numbers. The queues start in the morning outside the venue, and the pontoons are packed until well into the evening. And while the boats and sailors are the main attraction, the race village has plenty to draw people in for the day. I've been to smaller, less attended international boat shows. The Vendee Globe is quite simply something else. In fact, compare this to any other major sailing event. If you're looking at visitor participation, this is the big one. The people that queue here are not professional sailors. They're not solo sailors. They're ordinary people. Some of them may be sailors, but all of them want to see what makes this world tick. And I don't blame them. I'm wondering the same. The reality is that there are 40 boats here ready to set off around the world. And while we can marvel at the technology, I can't begin to imagine what it feels like to be preparing to head off for 24,000 miles alone. How would you even contemplate something like this? But when you talk to some of those that are about to do it, you see their world from another perspective. I got to talk to a number of them on board their boats, and we'll be running their interviews in full later on, so watch out for them. But in the meantime, here are a few of their comments. I started with Sam Goodchild, a regular Planet Sail contributor. I asked him to describe what his world would look like for the next 80 days. I mean, it's a hugely complex boat, but give us a sort of an overview of sort of your sort of typical day, I guess. I mean, where do you run the boat from?
Yeah, so it's basically 2 stations. This is kind of our standby station, if you like, on deck. So here, the first things are against the bulkhead, so if the boat nosedives, you're not going to fly very far, which is reassuring. I've actually got a seat which can go here to make it a bit more comfortable. I've got headroom, which is rare on this boat. So I've got the computer here, so basically everything goes to the computer, obviously navigation, weather, talking with land, whether that's technical help or comms stuff. The autopilot, we've got the basic controls here and then all the smaller controls on the computer. The Oscar, which is the camera, or the CI now, which is the camera at the top of the mast, is through the computer. All the alarms are through the computer. All the looking at the competitors, whether it's POS reports, whether it's AIS, are through the computer. Basically everything runs through the computer, so we've got the screen here. Generally we have the main sheet next to us, whether port or starboard we'll have the main sheet next to us, because it's the sail to ease if the boat starts losing control. And then you can have something else on the winch next to you. So basically here you can have everything at hand, so you have a little bit of an idea where you're going and be able to control everything. We've got the keel control here as well, which is pretty important on these boats because they've got tilt on them, so the boat flies part on the foil and part on the keel. So your keel is quite an easy way of calming things down or speeding up if you need to. And then obviously you can get quickly inside and quickly outside. So yeah, it's a nice central spot where you're pretty set in. Yeah.
It does feel like you. It feels. Maybe not snug isn't quite the right word, but everything is easy to hand. You don't feel like there's a huge amount of space that you're sort of struggling to move around in.
No, I mean, it was definitely thought out by Thomas and by Guillaume Verdier and by the team as a single-handed boat. So when you're at the handles in the middle, for example, all 4 winches are basically, without moving your feet, you can get to all 4 winches. And the whole pit, so all the pits were split in 2, they're pretty much symmetric, obviously apart from halyards and tack lines, but they're pretty much symmetric, and you can basically get to everything from the same set of handles. So it's pretty well thought out as a single-handed boat. So it'd be pretty busy if you're trying to do an ocean race.
Yeah, well, I would imagine it would be, and presumably, I mean, there are no sail controls that you need to go outside this cockpit area.
No, at the exception of taking it. Basically, we can put a reef in from here, but the Cunningham, if you want to go real. We could have we've got a down line on the luff, so you could kind of set up gently, but then you need to go forward to get the Cunningham, right. Which, I mean, on these boats there's so much water on the deck, you have to tidy up the furl of the reef anyway, otherwise you're going to get bags of water in it. So that doesn't stop you, it doesn't mean you have to go out the cockpit. And then obviously any sails which come out their bags, you have to go on the bow to plug them in. But apart from that, you can furl sails up, you can drop them, you have to go get them, and you can put a reef in from here, yeah.
Right. And so how much time would you spend in 24 hours? How much time do you spend in the cockpit up here versus how much time you spend below deck?
It depends on the conditions quite a lot, but I mean, you're probably 50% of your awake time here and 50% down, or if you like 45% there and 45% here, and then 10% of doing something else. If you haven't got a big day of manoeuvres or something like that. But yeah, you're spending a fair bit of time here, which is why we've got the computer screens outside, so you can look at what you need to and be able to control the sails.
And as far as I want to have a look down below in a minute, but just before we go down there, as far as eating, I mean, everything's freeze-dried now and it's all sort of jet boil stuff, but someone said to me, I think it was last year, someone said that eating is now becoming a tactical issue because you actually have to slow down to actually not boil the water, but pour the water out and eat.
I mean, yeah, the boats are getting fairly uncomfortable and fairly dangerous and food and eating is one of those problems, and whether that's you don't eat because it's just so much hard work or dangerous, so you end up losing energy and it costs you more in the long run, or whether that's boiling yourself with hot water like Boris Herman did in the ocean race last year. He's not the only one to have done it. I think other people have burnt themselves as well. They're not easy to live in environments when the conditions are tough. Like if you're going downwind in the Southern Ocean for 2 weeks, nose diving and slamming, you have to be pretty smart about how you manage your time and manage the boat. Yeah.
Sam, the first thing that strikes me is it's quite small, isn't it, down here?
Yeah, it's quite small and it's obviously difficult to get around, which is unpractical on the dock. But actually, once you're out sailing, you're quite happy to be never too far away from something solid.
Yeah.
So you can hold on to something, and if the boat stops, you're not going to fly too far. But yeah, it's quite. It's very much sort of around single-handed sailing. It's not very practical when there's a few of you. But the idea is from this one chart table seat, you can access everything. So I've got a brake on here, and the seat will spin round as I like it. And got a screen on both sides, so that way if one breaks, for example, you can look at the other one. So yeah, it's a pretty practical spot. But yeah, quite small and compact.
And you're sitting backwards there. That's how you normally sit, is it?
Yeah, we always sit backwards. I mean, if the boat nosedives, you're pretty happy to not go flying. I can get my feet up on here and have a bit of a sleep here as well. And then the computer screens will spin round either side, and you can look at them.
Right. And again, has that become? Because I don't remember. That's a fairly recent thing, isn't it? That people have sort of started to face the other way. And
I mean, I picked up the boat as it was, and it's the first time I've sailed facing backwards. But Tom has done the same thing on his new boat.
I got your phone in the truck.
And yeah, I don't know what the others do, to be honest, whether they're forwards or backwards. But you can tell. You probably know the boats better than I do.
Not yet.
But yeah, at the end of the week, we'll do a debrief.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll come back and tell you. Has that been tricky? Figuring out, because if you're sitting there facing backwards and then reading, doing your nav work, and did it take a while to get used to that? Is it?
I think to begin with, a little bit disturbing, and then after a while, you get used to it. Port's always on the left and starboard's always on the right, but
right.
You just have to think about it a little bit. But no, I'll tell you when I move back to a normal boat.
You might be a liability.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, at the moment it hasn't been an issue yet.
Right. So talk us about what's on the panel there behind you. So all the stuff that we've got around you here is plenty of bits of kit.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot going on. So yeah, this has got the radar. We've got the battery monitoring system. So just to keep an eye on charge. These are all water sensors, so if there's water gets in the boat, they will light. There will be an alarm. It will light up, and I can see whether it's at the front of the boat, back of the boat, where the foils are, where the sails are, by the engine, or in the middle compartment. Got a little fan for when it gets hot. This is a sleep alarm. This is a speaker that makes a lot of noise to wake you up if one of the alarms goes off. Keel control, so port starboard, a little bags to kind of keep stuff. There's a light on our camera which is under the boat, so you can turn the light on to have a look at the keel. This is the spare wand system, so the ones on the back of the boat we were talking about, you can flick between port and starboard. And it's my little unicorn that's done a few transats now. All my races, it's been around the world, this unicorn.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. I'm going to go for a second round the world trip. It came from my 7-year-old daughter. And yeah, so that's kind of this table, which is things which you don't really need all the time, but they need to be not too far away. Right. So like the battery monitor and the radar, which will have alarms on. If you need to look at them, they're there, but it's not something which is in front of you all the time.
Right. Okay. There are 40 entries for this event. The qualification process that each of them has been through means that these boats have each already travelled the equivalent of halfway around the world. Some, like Sam Davies, have already clocked up a lap of the planet. There's a backstory to every one of them, and during the course of the next 80 or so days, these stories will be told. But in the meantime, who are the favourites? There are so many reasons why Boris Herman's Militia Sea Explorer is pretty much at the top of the table when it comes to the favourites. Massive amounts of data on this boat as to how it performs. It's also considered to be the most robust boat in the fleet, and it's proved it again and again. And Boris Herman himself has really grown into the role of being a very, very quick offshore sailor around the world. Another one on the list of favourites to be right up there in the chocolates is Jan Richem on Paprec Archaea. This might be his first Vendee Globe, but he's hugely experienced, a very talented solo sailor who's been on the rise for the last couple of years and attracted a great deal of attention. He's definitely one to watch in a boat that is certainly quick. Jeremy Bayou's Sheahan is widely considered to be the most complex and sophisticated of the current generation of IMOCAs. It's certainly pretty advanced. It's got some very interesting rudders which help to lift the back of the boat, but it hasn't been entirely successful, at least not in the early days when it was launched. It's taken a long time to shake this boat down, but there's no question that he's another hugely experienced sailor in a weapon of a machine. Thomas Ruyant on Vulnerable is another one that a lot of people are going to be watching very closely indeed. Again, another hugely talented sailor. He was 4th in the last Vendee Globe on his previous boat, which is actually being sailed by Sam Goodchild this time. Actually, when the results were finally sorted with the redress that happened, he ended up 6th. Nonetheless, very, very talented sailor, and this boat is properly sorted. Very interesting. It's been a development from the boat, as I say, that Sam Goodchild is now sailing, and one of the few teams to have a 2-boat program. So as far as the technology is concerned, this boat looks like it could be right up there. And one other little thing to look out for. Last time around, Thomas and his team did an amazing film. It's called 29,000 something or other NM, referring to the distance around the world. But it is, I have to say, the most extraordinary piece of sailing filmmaking I think I've ever seen. Check it out, it's well worth it. Oh, and watch it on a big screen with big speakers. That's the way to get the full experience. Sam Davies needs no introduction, hugely experienced, been doing the Vendee Globe for many years, and a lot of people think that this could be her year. Her boat is really well sorted, she's very used to it, she's clearly very comfortable in it, and I think she's in the top 10 of the favourites. Nicolas Lundven may not be everybody's choice for sort of the top 10 favourites, but he is another exceptional sailor, and one of the things that's in his favour is that his boat, Holcim, has already been round the world and proved itself in the ocean race. Here's another boat that's been around the world and has proven itself already, Paul Mayer's Beotherm. It's a very quick boat, he's a very experienced sailor. But during the ocean race, this boat did have quite a few problems. It was notoriously fragile compared to the rest of the fleet. They did get it round, and well, maybe they've sorted out all the problems, but here's another one that's got to go on the list. You'd have to put this guy, Yannick Bestevan, on the list as well. He won the last Vendee Globe. But for my money, my favourite, Charlie Dallin on Massif. A really well sorted boat, an exceptional sailor who's proved himself time and time again already. There are 6 women in this race, but interestingly, when you ask them about women in the fleet, they see themselves as no different to the men. And what strikes me about this is that it underpins the idea that despite the popular misconception about this race being one about brute force, the reality is that the Vendee Globe is a thinking game. Pip Hare is a great example of how important the mental approach to this race is. Does it get harder to go down to the Southern Ocean because you've been there before?
Well, I think last time I was expecting just hell on earth. I was expecting Armageddon,
Right.
And I didn't get it. So I'm expecting it this time.
Well, at least I suppose the one thing that you can, above all else, is I did it.
Yeah.
I got around it.
Yeah.
I did it, and
Yeah.
so I know what to look out for.
But it's just, I guess, my way of looking at it is having done it once makes me in nowhere an expert. So
Absolutely, yeah.
One of the things I do is I never, ever, ever allow myself to imagine crossing the finish line. I will not. I didn't on the last one. I did not until not even like 30 seconds out did I imagine it.
Right.
And I won't imagine it this time. I
Right.
will not fast forward there because
Right.
it would be stupid.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I'm envious, but in I guess a respectful way of all of these skippers that got to do the Southern Ocean leg of the ocean race. They are streets ahead. They know what it's like. They know how to push. They've done pushing with a team around them. You know, they know at what stage you bring the foils in. You know, they've got an idea on sail plans. And for me, it's just new territory, and understanding that. I think my biggest issue is going to be knowing when to back off, because actually, I do like to put the pedal to the metal, and the boat sounds like it's going to break all the time. Every time you fall off a wave, the boat sounds like it's going to break in half, and you train yourself to go, yeah, it sounds like that, but it's not going to. So it's kind of being able to throttle back at the right time, knowing what the signals are. I think that's going to be hard.
A lot of the French rock star skippers have often said, haven't they, that actually the secret to breaking a record around the world is to learn how to go slowly, which it just seems never has it been more true than now, I guess, where you can just destroy the boat if you, as you say, keep your foot flat to the floor, you could just destroy it.
Absolutely, and I think part of the issue now with these boats and with the qualifications that we do is that a transatlantic is 10 days. And when everybody is pedal to the metal for 10 days, they don't really care so much about the consequences, because you know when you get to the other side, you just go, Joff, come and fix it. And you know, every one of us has had broken ribs at the end of a transatlantic. Everyone.
What, personally broken?
No.
I was going to say, wow, that's quite some statistic.
No.
Right, the boat has had them right with you. Okay.
But you know it's okay in 10 days, and you're never going to go at round the world pace on a transatlantic race. You're going to go at transatlantic pace, and so you know, exactly as you say, we're all going to need to learn what an appropriate pace is, what that feels like, and in a way, I think it's going to be such an interesting race, because I think, you know, there will be kind of little pelotons forming, and then it's who's going to break. You know, what are you risking if you break? You know, those sorts of things. It's going to be hard.
It certainly seems to be stacking up to be a very, very competitive race, and I just wonder whether part of the success, the ongoing success of this, as you were talking about those pelotons and the groups of boats, is the fact that there are races within the race. It's not all about being the top dog and winning the Vendee Globe. It's about finishing, but it's also now, the way you describe it, about racing within a group of boats.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, you know, the way that the race is shared, the way people can follow it, you know, you can look at any part of the fleet and still kind of get the excitement of watching people trying to overtake each other and taking different routes and stuff. And the fact of the matter is, well, I mean, I think there's probably 6 or 7 people that potentially could win this race, which is incredible. But, you know, there's also 33 others that are still racing, you know, incredibly well to the best of their limits, trying to outperform their boats, telling their stories. So yeah, and we just don't know how it's going to unfold. No idea. No.
Well, no, in a few days' time. Well, at least the first bit of it, anyway.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, good luck. It's great to see you, and best of luck. We'll be watching.
Thank you.
Having announced our new clothing partner, Henry Lloyd, earlier this year, and as the weather has turned, we've been working our way through the new kit, and it's very good. As one of the oldest in the business, Henry Lloyd need little introduction. And as you may have seen from our features earlier this year, they've spent a great deal of time and effort going back to basics and creating a completely new collection based on some of the key designs that made the company so famous. So if you want to know more about the new range of clothing and how they're focusing on responsible performance with a growing list of PFC-free products, use the QR code here or check out the link in the description below. There is no question that 24,000 miles around the world is one hell of a challenge. But before they can even start, the toughest part will be here. As skippers pass down this infamous channel on their way out to the start line, tens of thousands of people will line the route. It's an emotional moment where even the toughest sailors struggle to conceal their feelings. On Sunday, the 10th of November, this will be the moment when years of planning and preparation, stress and anxiety will come to a head as the real challenge gets underway. We'll be making regular reports on this extraordinary race, so make sure you stay tuned. See you then.